Alrighty. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I think this recording will also be available later on at the end of the session. But thank you everyone for joining us today for the webinar on unveiling opportunities, transforming underground liabilities into assets with 3D mapping tools. I'm your host, Marvin Lopez. I am the Director of Client Success here at ProStar PointMan. With us today, we have a team of field users, experts in the field, have a lot more expertise in everyday kind of workflows when it comes to the data collection and the fields that we all tend to work in. We have Blake Murphy here with American Pipeline Solutions, and also Ken Smith from Tico Energy. And I'll give him an opportunity, Blake, if you don't mind starting by introducing yourself.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Marvin. So my name is Blake Murphy, Vice President, American Pipeline Solutions. Been with the company for a few years now. And once we start the actual presentation, some of my slides, I'll kind of go into our company specifics, but happy to be here and excited to talk about our technology.
Thank you, Blake. We're happy to have you here with us today. And Ken, if you don't mind.
Yes, I'm Ken Smith from Fort Myers, Florida, and I work for a local utility in the Fort Myers area.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate you. It's been a long user of PointMan from kind of its early beginning. So we love having Ken around to be able to speak to how he continues to evolve his day-to-day practices and the everyday use of PointMan. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you all of you who've joined in on the channel today. Once again, this webinar is hosted by PointMan, the 3D utility mapping tool. We'll be talking about PointMan in kind of the real world sense, but also make sure to stay with us till the end of the session here. Oh, and we will be also sharing a special offer to everybody on the call, giving you guys a free use of PointMan so that you can get your hands on the tool also after the call. So make sure to stick around for that. And Garrett, if you don't mind, jump to the next slide real quick. What we're here to talk about, and you guys may have seen this slide before, is the current status of the industry. There's about 500,000 strikes per year throughout. This is from 2019. This stat has gone up, especially since the infrastructure money has come down the pipe over the last few years. There's about a $10 billion spent on trying to locate and manage the utility problem, but there's about $30 billion still spent on damages incurred in utility line strikes, work stoppages, fines, etc. So that's what we're here to talk about this stuff today, is how some folks using PointMan and other great tools are applying new technologies to help solve some of these issues. So if you'll jump to the next slide. Thank you so much. And I'm going to hand it over to Blake Murphy, who's going to kind of dive into a little bit of what we're talking about here today.
All right. Thanks, Marvin. So as I said before, my name is Blake Murphy, Vice President, American Pipeline Solutions, Head of Business Development and Marketing for our company. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of a quick overview of our company. We're based out of Hackensack, New Jersey, but we are a nationwide company. So we do work from everywhere to California, Washington State, Florida, you name it, we will go there. We specialize primarily in the utilities as well as gas and oil, but essentially we'll clean, we will condition assess, we'll reline, recoat, and map pretty much any kind of pipe that there is. So we can, in terms of conventional pigging, and I'll get into this next slide, we're able to clean pretty much any size pipe from 1 inch and larger. And then for ice pigging, we won't talk too much about this, but this essentially is the use of a slurry of ice that we inject into the pipe, and then we push it through. If it gets stuck or if there's any issues, it's just going to melt and go away. And that's made with basically your food grade table salt and just straight ice. And then we'll be talking about pipe mapping, and smart pigging is basically a pipeline condition assessment or inspection. And it's the same thing that you'll see on the next slide, which is a pig, which is made out of foam, and it just comes with different sensors and different capabilities. And then for internal pipe coating, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just part of the rehab work that we do. Also, one other thing is that we are veteran owned and managed and operated. Next slide, please. Okay, so on the right-hand side, we've got a picture of a few pigs. For those of you who don't know what pigs are, imagine you take the material that is in your couch, that foam, and you essentially create what looks like a bullet. You put it into the pipe, and then you either propel it with water or air. Usually we'll use water. These pigs come in different sizes and shapes. The ones that are made with light density foam can actually compress to about 50%. And what's that mean? That means that we can put these pigs into different pipes, different diameter pipes, and not have to worry about them getting stuck. They can also navigate 90-degree bends with no issues. And then they can really clean miles and miles of pipe. It's very common in the oil and gas industry to see these pigs going through, basically 20 to 30 miles of pipe. They can also be used on all different types of pipe materials, and they can start at a very low diameter, as I said before, to 1 inches, 1 inch, and then they can be made as big as the pipe size itself. Next slide, please. All right, so talking about what we're all here for, which is the pipe mapping pig and the capabilities of XYZ pipe mapping as we can perform this service. So
Sorry to interrupt you, but for those of us who don't know, can you explain what you mean by XYZ?
Sure. So XYZ is basically the different 3D mapping. So left, right, up, down on an axis. So if a pipe has any sort of dips, if it's going down or it's ascending, it's going to capture that. And if it's going left or right, it's going to capture that.
So to
So
clarify, you're
the
talking
Y is the left and the right, and the Z is the pitch, the pitch or the depth.
sorry to
Is that?
interrupt. Sure.
Yeah, no, all good,
So
Marty.
to clarify, you're talking about the 3D geospatial data here, right?
Correct.
Alrighty. Thank you, sir.
Yep, no, of course. So our pig that we've got a partnership with a manufacturing unit out of Houston that will create this pipe mapping pig for us. And they also will provide the data analysis that goes along with each of the runs that we do. What makes this pig unique is the IMU that's inside of it. This inertial measurement unit is basically 5 times more powerful than the average IMU that you're going to find in a lot of the other current off-the-shelf or gyroscope or IMU type tools that you may find from other service providers. The big thing that separates this, in addition to the gyroscope and IMU, is the free swimming no tether element. So as I was saying before, we run these pigs by sticking them in via launcher into the pipeline, and then we'll push them through either using water or air, and then we retrieve them on the other side of the line. And so what we're able to do is, instead of having to for instance, one option that's out there is a gyroscope that gets pulled back and forth between both ends of the pipe. That gyroscope has to remain tethered the entire time in order to successfully pull it. Therefore, you have to dewater the pipe, or you have to make sure the pipe is in a certain level of cleanliness. And then you also need those access points for a prolonged period of time. And I'll talk about that a little bit with the case study that I'm going to present to you guys. So the big advantage for this is not only the level of accuracy that you're going to have, which is around 9 inches, but it's also the fact that we can provide this on a free swimming tool. And so it's going to be launched just like any other pig. And it's also going to be able to navigate the 1 degree and 1.5 degree bends. So a 9-degree bend that you might have in your pipe, this is not going to be a game stopper. And it's also going to work on all pipe materials, which is a great thing, because sometimes some of the services that are out there, they cannot map or detect pipes that are non-metallic. So this is another advantage for this tool that we've got. Next slide, please. So this is the case study that we had recently, a project that we completed in December of last year. We were brought in to map 2 lines in downtown Washington, D.C., right next to the Capitol building. Each line was 3,300 feet. Each line was also about 40 feet below the surface of the street. So, you know, for instance, ground penetrating radar, something like that is not going to be capable of detecting those pipes, mainly because it's so deep, but also imagine all the other infrastructure that is going across those pipes. So you've got essentially 40 feet of different levels of pipe, and Lord only knows, you know, below the surface of DC or a New York City, what else is down there. The other characteristic of this job was the access points. So one point was right in the middle of a major intersection that is essential to DC rush hour traffic, both incoming and outgoing. And then we also had basically the fact that we were at those points that were so sensitive and time restricted. The client gave us basically a 6-hour window for us to map this or these 2 lines, just because of, you know, the restraints that they were facing. We looked at a few other possible solutions in addition to the pipe mapping pig. One was that gyroscope that can be pulled back and forth. That's another service that we do provide. However, again, with the time constraint, you know, when you're doing something like that, it requires a great deal of time and runs. So not only are you pulling it back and forth at least once each way, but you're possibly going to have to do it more times just to verify and get that level of fidelity and mapping accuracy that you want. Next slide, please. Okay, so how did the project end up? Well, it was overall, it was successful. Each run took about 34 minutes, which is in industry standards is much faster than pretty much any other solution that's going to be out there. We use water right off of a fire hydrant to push each tool through. And we're able to successfully map with sub-meter accuracy for these lines. What we found was that because this was brand new PVC and the material that we were using for the cylinder to keep the mapping pig in place, that there was a little bit of start-stop action that occurred, and that kept us from giving the 9-inch within 9 inches of accuracy. However, we have come up with an actual foam mapping pig, not just the one that we use with this one, but a foam mapping pig that will slide right through with no starting and stopping, and therefore that will be able to provide that 9 inches give or take level of accuracy. Right off the bat, we were within about 45 minutes of retrieving each of those pigs. We were able to upload the data to a cloud and to verify that the data that we pulled off was in fact good quality data, and that we could move on to the next pipe or close up shop for the rest of the day. The initial report that we provide is within 3 business days, and that will essentially just give you the basic, just kind of, hey, this is the pig went and descended this amount, it went to the left, this amount to the right, this amount. So it's very preliminary reporting on the pig, or sorry, on the actual pipeline itself. And then the final report with the KML data that you can drop into Google Earth or to whatever your software choice is, mainly Point Man. that is provided to you within about 2 weeks from the time that we pack up and leave that site. Other optional reporting data that we can provide, the mapping tool can also tell you, it comes with a caliper sensor. So it can provide the geometry. So for instance, if you're concerned about any sort of pipe bending or breaking, then the geometry sensors will actually detect some of the anomalies that you might find in a pipe that might have some issues. So that's kind of just in addition to the mapping capabilities, that's another deliverable that we can provide. On the right there, you can see that pretty much at each distance point, you're going to receive the latitude, the longitude, the elevation, and a few other things. And all of that data is then captured as well in that KML file that we provide to you. And so really, in terms of just kind of going back before I open this for questions, the main differentiators for this tool is the accuracy that we can provide, the fact that it is non-tethered, so we can shoot this thing through and we can do it either with water or with air. And then just the timeliness of the data that we can provide to you. And so, really in terms of the potential solutions that are out there that can do this, to my knowledge, there are none at this point. Not to say there won't be in the future, but right now, I think that we're pretty much the only ones that are doing this.
Blake,
So I'll pause here and I'll open up for questions. Go ahead, Marvin.
I have a question for you to kind of the implications of you as a, working in a business. What does this mean for you on the other end of it? So like, obviously turnaround times are faster, but is there any other side benefits that you've seen from kind of having this turnaround time or efficiencies or any other kind of work protocols change within your day-to-day that have contributed to maybe benefiting you in any sort of way, whether it's monetary or like time consuming, whatever it may be?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll speak from a client's perspective. So we've used this tool a number of times for contractors that are doing, directional drilling, and they need to have that data back as soon as possible because they've got guys in the field that are waiting to be told, hey, this data is good, that we've mapped it successfully, and that there's no sort of issues with the pipe. Go ahead and pull those two other lines in, or go ahead and bury the infrastructure and move on. So from a monetary perspective, time is money. So if we're moving quickly, then that's going to save our clients a great deal of time. For us, time is money. So if our guys don't have to stay out in the field and we're not spending as much time, pulling a gyroscope back and forth, then our guys are in and out. So our guys drove down from New Jersey the night before. We were on site for a grand total of, I believe, 7 hours. And then we were gone. So we were in and out, and there was no headaches. There was no sort of conflict between our client and the city of DC, who, they gave him a very, very tight timeline. So really it was a win-win across the board for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah,
Looks like we have some questions coming in from our participants here. First question is, are the data files compatible with Esri through KML file?
Yes. Yeah. So these data files, we can have them built out to fit whatever it is that the client needs. So, that's why we've created this relationship with Point Man. So for any of the clients that come in with Point Man or desire to have a specific platform to have this data captured in, we can essentially fulfill that requirement, whatever it might be.
Awesome. Thank you. A couple more questions here. It says, for the internal pig pipe mapping, what sizes of pipe is the tool good for? And what if a line has multiple bends, multiple 90s?
Yeah, so no issues with multiple 90s. And right now we can map basically down to 1.25 inches, and then all the way up to, I want to say right now, about 48 inches. However, we just got a call for a 9 foot diameter pipeline that we're going to see if we can't figure out a solution for. It might be tough, but we're always game to try and figure out anything.
Thank you, Blake. Next question coming in. It says, will this help municipal utilities map out their existing utilities?
Absolutely. So we're actually, we just got a call 2 weeks ago from a utility provider in West Virginia that has a force main where they've got a start point and a stop point, but they have no idea where it is in between. It's a 4-inch force main, and they essentially want to directional drill or pipe burst through it and create a 6-inch instead of the 4-inch, but they need to know where it's going first. And so they brought us in, and we hope to do that project sometime next week or the following.
That's a perfect segue into the next question, which is, what type of entry and exit access do you have or do you need for the pig?
So really, we on this one, we used a pipe plug. So there was really nothing, no fittings that had been on there, and we were able to put a plug on and then just and send it. So for the retrieving end, there's really nothing that needs to be on there. We can, for the force main, for instance, we're going to shoot this from a lift station, and then we're going to retrieve it from a gravity manhole. So I want to say that that's the 90% of the pipelines that are out there. But at the end of the day, it kind of all depends.
Yep.
And we're always going to work with the client to figure out what the best way of launching and receiving is.
These next few kind of are the around the same thing. Says, is there any pipeline cleaning required prior to the mapping, and are there any restrictions that could prevent the pig from flowing through the pipe?
Yeah, so we will clean it, because if we don't clean it, the pig has to stay as close to the center as possible. And so if there's anything that is possibly bouncing the pig around, it's gonna mess up the data. So we want that pipe to be as clean as possible. So for this force main in West Virginia, we're going to clean it first, which is something that we do, and then we're just going to shoot the mapping pig as the last pig to go through.
Gotcha. We have probably time for a few more questions, and then we're gonna want to give enough time for our other guests also to speak. So I'm gonna give just a few more questions here, guys. What kind of, oh, we answered that, I'm sorry. What kind of accuracy do you see vertically with any given pipe? And they're also asking, how do you migrate bends larger than 1.5? And this is a cost effective for contractors when installing, I'm sorry. I'll circle back to that. Sorry,
A
sorry.
lot of questions. So
Yeah.
well, bends greater than 1.5, that's a tough one, because of the equipment that's inside of these things. You're not going to be able to do greater than 1.5, and I don't know a ton of pipes that are more than 1.5, because that's a pretty severe bend. Vertically, it should be no issues in terms of mapping capabilities. And then I will say that you cannot pipeline pig or map any pipes that have valves that are butterfly valves or rectangular port plug valves. But every other type of valve, gate valves, circular port valves, anything else, we can get through with no issues.
Last two questions, okay, and we'll have to move on. I apologize for those other questions that we can't get to right away. Can telecom and cable contractors use this when installing lines through HDD? Is it cost effective? And also, how have the results of this been validated?
Yes, yeah. So this is actually a technology that's been validated on miles and miles of oil and gas pipelines, and that's where the technology initially came from. So what we do a lot of is take technology from oil and gas and bring it into water, wastewater, and other utility areas. The job that we did in DC was for pulling fiber optic cable through. It is efficient for contractors because we can do it faster and to the level of accuracy that they need it for. And we can also winch it if we have to. We've done that for jobs in Philadelphia. We did a 36-inch and two 16-inch lines that we just winched through because it wasn't feasible to do it any other way. And yes, the data was accurate and there was no issues with it, and the contractor was happy. So hopefully that answered everything that you just shot at me, Marvin.
Yeah, man, I figured you probably weren't ready for a lightning round, but Ken,
Yeah, no, I enjoy it, man. Bring
fizzed
it
it
on. My email address is there, phone number is there. So anybody who has any follow-on questions, feel free to shoot it my way. And no, thanks again, Marvin. Appreciate it, and I'll be standing by over here.
Definitely. And if we have time at the end, we'll circle back to some more of these questions that are coming, that are trickling through also.
Sure.
So next up, I want to introduce Ken and also Brock, who, sorry, I missed you at the beginning there. I saw you jump in. Brock, if you don't mind giving just the audience a quick introduction on who you are and what you do. And then I know you and Ken have a little bit to say about how you guys are using our tool.
Sure, absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Brock Daniels. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Florida. Background, I've been in engineering for over 22 years. Civil engineer is my discipline. I'd say last 13 years we've been in the natural gas business, particularly working with TECO here locally here in Southwest Florida. What we do primarily is design, permitting, and obviously we do a lot of field work as far as survey. And we got introduced to PointMan maybe 2 years ago. For years we've been using Trimble as a data collecting tool. And once we got introduced to PointMan, we just saw how streamlined it was as far as collecting the data, being able to translate that to files that can be used as far as like KMLs, DWGs, DGN. So, our primary source of using PointMan is for data collecting for design purposes. Obviously, we use it also for locating, gas lines and other pipelines. So, like I said, primarily our work has been with TECO, but we started to branch out, working with different telecom communication companies like Summit Broadband, Hotwire, and other utility companies like that. So, yeah, my testimony for PointMan is it's changed the way we've done business. It's very efficient. I love it, extremely streamlined. I love the pedigree data that it gives you, as far as, elevation, the depth of the pipe. It just gives you a lot of useful information that we can utilize internally, but also be able to navigate that and translate that to our customers where it's easy to, for them to be able to see what we're doing out in the field. So that's my spiel.
Thank you, Brock. I appreciate that. And of course, Ken, Gary, do we have some more slides that we need to push through?
Nope, we've got all the slides covered. Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, Ken, Brock, I know that Ken, honestly, you're a super user, man. You've been using PointMan for a few years now, and Ken is always so open to talking about his real world experience with people like you who are on the call right now, talking or wanting to know a little bit more about tools like this. So Ken, can you kind of give us a little bit of a why it was that you were looking for PointMan and kind of what it came out to be, how you found it really, and now how you're using it in the most, real world sense?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Marvin. I appreciate it. Yeah, for me, I was just looking for a way to accurately depict the locations of our underground facilities. And again, as you guys have probably heard, I've saw a commercial on YouTube a while back and directed me towards PointMan, and of course, I've been using it ever since. And I guess just recently, I finally was able to kind of coin or try to understand exactly really what PointMan is. And to me, it's truly a 3D, 4D as-built-in solution. It basically, to me, is the most efficient way to communicate the exact location of underground facilities, really any facility, from one person to the other. So even like I work with Brock quite often, and a lot of times we actually send point man files back and forth in order to basically describe what we need or communicate the exact location of the utilities. And we just found it's just the simplest, easiest, most efficient way. And of course, with the cloud, obviously, when you work with utilities, sometimes you have emergencies. And the cloud, as far as I'm concerned, is just the most efficient way to like communicate the location of underground facilities in event of emergency, because you literally open the app, you hit the center button, it centers you so you know you're actually in the right spot. And basically, you select the assets you want, you get the pedigree data, or if you need to, you can actually stake it out. So again, just a really amazing technology. And again, I appreciate all the support that you guys have kind of given me over the years. But I just, if I could find a better way to do what I do, I would. But you guys are it. So again, I really appreciate it. And again, speak about American Pipeline Solutions. I really like the solution they have, and also other gyroscopic mapping companies. We were actually had the opportunity to use some gyroscopic data to actually, collect information on our pipeline. And the thing I like about it is that once we get this data from people like American Pipeline Solutions and other companies, we can actually use that data with PointMan to protect the asset for the life of the asset. So it's not about just a one and done. It's about a continuous improvement of, protecting our assets. And really, that's really what all utilities do, is we protect our underground assets. So again, I have nothing bad to say. I just really appreciate, the app, and, just hope to see many more years of utilizing it to solve problems.
Ken, we had a question from the audience. They were
Okay.
asking, what company do you work with?
Well, I'd rather not say technically, because I'm not really here on their behalf. I just want to speak on the, what I'm saying, just the, how can you say it, the effectiveness of the technology. I guess that really, I think, is the most important thing. And if a person wanted, feel free to give me a call, and I'll be more than glad to explain to them, how I use it, how they can use it. Because the nice thing about it is by having KMLs, KMZs, and shapefiles, it just makes it easy to basically go from the real world to the virtual, and from the virtual back and forth. So again, feel free to reach out to me. I know you guys can feel free to give up my email address and my telephone number, and I can kind of answer any other question.
Most definitely. Thank you, sir. I
Uh-huh.
will say, I know, and you have a lot of industry knowledge and experience. I mean, you've been doing this for quite some time, and all sorts of utility locating, oil and gas, construction, like kind of the whole gambit of everything. So as a tested field user, we trust Kenny's experience to be able to kind of give us also direction. We love to hear back from everybody, all sorts of PointMan users, primarily because the in-person, in-field users are the folks who are going to need to know, who can tell us how can we improve this technology. So it's this dialogue that we're having, whether it's through webinars, whether it's contacting our teams directly, whether it's demos that we're trying to provide for folks, or any type of other content and literature. We're here to answer questions. So if anybody has any questions or wants to circle back to getting into more details about any of the projects that are current or past, we are all open to having those discussions. If everybody has a sec, I have a couple more questions that popped up here. Well, it looks like maybe just one more. Brent asked, what's the vertical error / tolerance? Is it plus or minus a foot, for example, or what's the tolerance on some of the data that you're collecting? I think this was in reference to Blake, your presentation.
Yeah, I'm actually just texted the manufacturer to ask the specific question, so I don't speak out of turn. So Brent, if you can, just shoot me an email if I don't have that answer to you by the end of this, which I hope to, and I'll get you that info.
Awesome. So I guess right now at this point in the webinar, we're leaving it open for open discussion. Really, we don't like to keep these too long. Mostly it's just an informative discussion. Obviously, we love our tool, and we love that people are starting to use it and adopt it in a variety of different ways. But it's really our users who are going to be doing this. So for any of those, for any of you who would like to get to use PointMan or know more about PointMan, feel free to reach out to us. Garrett, Nick, I'm not sure exactly how we're going to be collecting information, but if any of you guys want to try PointMan out, we have a special offer for everyone here on the call today. We'll give you a one license for free for a year, so you can test it out, use it. You can download it on your smartphone, Android or iOS. You'll be able to connect it to your third-party receivers, do some of this mapping that Brock and Ken and Blake are all doing currently with PointMan. That's our appreciation of you guys taking the time to sit down with us and talk these things out, but also we want to put it in your hands. We think it's through and through the best data collector out there, but we don't want to just say that. We want to prove it. So we want to put this thing in your hand and show you that what you can do with this data is actually a lot further than what we probably discussed here today. So oh, it looks like we have a hand raise. Sir Lawrence. Yes, sir. Let me
And once the webinar is over, there'll be a survey question. If you'd like to speak to a PointMan representative and get your free PointMan app, just click yes on that and we'll get in touch with you.
thanks for the clarification there, Garrett. Sir, looks like you are on. I think we should be able to hear you. You had a question?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Sir Lawrence Dixon. I work for Daniels Engineering. Brock Daniels is on the line also. I use it more out in the field, and I've got to say, I can get 2 to 4 jobs depending on the size and the length done in one day. So I see firsthand the effectiveness of the surveying work, how accurate it is. So I just want to point that out. It's very, very effective. And it's really a game changer. So if you got any questions, Ken, myself, and Brock, we can all be able to answer some of those.
Thank you, sir.
Let me look right here real quick to make sure that we don't have any other questions that I'm missing out on. Nope, looks like that's it. So, Ken, yes, please.
Yep. Hey, also too, I just wanted to mention that the PointMan, app. I don't know. Again, the question was about the tooling, but basically, it's as accurate as your GPS antenna. So a lot of GPS antennas are now like a 1/4 inch centimeter, and of course, the one I use, the MLIDs, I'm getting literally 0.04 feet vertical and horizontal all day, every day. So it's just really, really, really amazing. And another thing too is that with this data, I kind of call it, like the dog that's kind of caught the school bus or, eating the elephant. We'll be more than glad to show you guys how to do that because when you have this data, a lot of times we almost don't know what to do with it. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to, me, the PointMan team, and, ask them. And again, I can show you how to like use the CSV files and, map 3D and civil 3D, the KML files. And what's really cool about that is that it'll literally allow you to go from, again, the virtual world to the real world. And what I mean by that also is that, like, for example, a lot of times when we do a design, we'll have like a PUE, and they may say only be like 6 foot. And then sometimes if you're already out, installing your facility, you may realize that there may be someone else in the location you decided to go. So by you having this information, if you have the PUE, you can actually stake that out and know the boundaries of, where you can go. And so you can make adjustments. And of course, once you make those adjustments, you can collect that data. So again, there's just so many things, that can be done with this technology. And unfortunately, again, there's probably not enough time in the day to really share that. But if you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out, and I'm more than glad to help and answer any. And I'm sure that, Brock, sir, and the PointMan team will also, do the same thing.
Yep, it looks like a couple more questions are coming in here.
Okay.
These are based off of CAD. So if anybody can answer, can you guys provide some experience that you have translating PointMan data to CAD data with survey calibration? And also, if so, which CAD software platforms do you primarily use?
Yeah. I don't know if you want me to speak on that, my basic experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I primarily, in order to really use the CSV files, it's one thing to say to use AutoCAD, but it's actually more than CAD. You really need Map 3D or Civil 3D in order to actually utilize the data. And of course, if you use Map 3D, you can actually import the KML files. You can import the KMZs, but primarily I use the KMLs. The KMZs a lot of times loaded with the photos, so it's really, KML is definitely a better option. You can import the shape files and basically, utilize that data. And then of course, what's really great is if you have a spatially correct CAD file, again, using Map 3D and, Civil 3D, you can export out line work that is spatially correct. So again, it's just, it's really a seamless process, but that's primarily what I use.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. And anybody else? I don't know if you wanted to add to that. Alrighty.
Oh yeah, I'll add to that. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Civil 3D is, it's a great tool, for converting the CSV files. Also, another pretty much similar type of program that we use is MicroStation, Power Geopack in particular. So the two are pretty much very compatible with those type of file types, but obviously Civil 3D is what most people use as far as converting the CSV files to a file extension that you can use, whether that's a DWG, DGN, or but
Yeah. Yeah. Piggyback off of what Brock said, what's really interesting is that I forgot to mention the CSV files. I like to create what I call my 2D, 3D maps. And so basically you can take a CSV file, import it into AutoCAD, and basically at every point, you could basically put like a point number, basically like elevation and depth, and display that in a map. So you could quickly just look at a 2D map and see, okay, hey, where's my line shallow, where's my line deep, and just kind of get a lay of the land. So that's what's really great, is that you make one trip, you collect these files, and they're basically supported, again, the CSVs, KMLs, the shapes, database files, and you can just use them however you see fit. So it's one time, one trip, but you've got the data forever. So that's what I really like about it.
Most definitely, man. Well, guys, again, to close out, we appreciate everyone who's joined us today. Oh, I think we have one more question that came in. It says, have you found a way to have the attributes from PointMan translate into the properties shown in Civil 3D?
Well, I know that I watched a video the other day. I think Peter Schreier with ProStar actually was talking about that.
Our chief, yeah.
And, I know, yes, and I know it can be done. So there's a video available. I primarily work myself with one utility, so it makes it kind of easy. So I kind of know, like, in a sense, like what my data is, but I have layers, and you can basically, kind of, go back and forth. But I know that there is a way to do it. And I think there's a video available online to show how to do just that.
If everybody, I'm putting in my email into the chat real quick. If you have any follow-up questions or need to find any of those resources on the videos that Ken is mentioning right now, or have any follow-up questions on data conversions or anything like that, please reach out to me via that email. We can follow up with you. We can send you the links because we have these questions come through pretty regularly. We have resources that we can send you. But with that, I believe that doesn't look like any other questions are coming through. So everyone, thank you so much again for your time. I know it's precious and we value having you here and learning more about how we can improve the day-to-day workflows, the industry overall with PointMan. So thank you guys so much, and we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you on the next one, okay? Keep an eye out for any other upcoming webinars. To all of everybody who participated today, Ken, Brock, Blake, sir, even Nick, Garrett, thank you for putting this together. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Mark.
good one.